Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cross Commission Podcast. My name is Saif Fakadu. On the other line with me is Jake Nazar. Jake, first real conference preview, still in 2024, but you kind of feel that 2025 energy flowing. So on the cusp of New Year's Eve, it'd be tomorrow, but no better place to be with you. With going into the new year, always exciting for the start of the season. So. I'm just loving this format. Just Jake, everything about StreamYard is just great. Everything's just so clean. It just starts right away. Definitely get a kick out of it.
Yeah, just hit record. Pardon me. Just hit record. Ready to go. Got it right in the top left corner here. We're rocking and rolling. Got this one in podcast audio format for you guys. Like the old, like y'all are used to. So if you're listening to this, we're recording this Monday evening, December 30th. If you are listening to this, if you're listening to this right away, it'll be, probably New Year's Eve, December 31st, or, some other time, or Tuesday morning, December 31st. And we'll, our schedule for this, we're going to keep, try and pump these out one a week up until the week before the start of the season. So we've got next week, we're going to do, I don't really know, never really know what to kind of call some of these weeks, especially now with, pardon me, coming over a bit of a cold. We've got the NEC coming back. I guess maybe, we're going to do Big East, CAA, A10, Patriot League, next week. So you're kind of, mid-majors, maybe, I guess you can kind of call it. These are tonight we're doing our kind of like pure one bid league, so to speak. That'll be for next week. We'll record that sometime January 6th through the 10th. Then January 13th through the 17th, we will record the big three, ACC, Big Ten, and Ivy. And then the week of Martin Luther King Junior Day through the 24th, we will do our season preview, where we hope to drop our first top 20 poll of the year, which always causes discourse, debate, discussion, the 3Ds. Excited for that. Our, All-American team, all that good stuff, predictions. So, we'll do a pod there. And then that will set us up for, hopefully, we'll have a pod out, our usual kind of season, or not season, like, our usual, me and Safe do just weekly preview pod for the first week of the season, for the first batch of games, especially because, it's, as usual, week one has become a pretty, nice start to the, season. Nowadays, it's most, the Ivy League doesn't play, and some, there are some teams who don't play, on that first week, but you've got a lot of teams, I think it's probably at least half, and certainly a good amount of, the top 20 who do play on that first Saturday. So we'll have a preview for that one. I'm just trying to see, what games we do have. Duke's in action. They're number 3. They're playing Bellarmine. Maryland's in action. They're playing, Richmond. You've got Denver, Hopkins. That was a crazy game. The first Saturday last year.
Utah,
yeah.
Maryland, Loyola, Georgetown.
Yes, Loyola Georgetown. Always a, or that hasn't been, first Saturday before that was, played in April, but pretty consistently. A big game this calendar. Jacksonville, Syracuse.
I was just looking at that. I was like, we got to get Rye's take on the Galloway Bowl.
Yeah, Galloway Bowl, true. Rutgers, Lehigh. Kind of in there. So Iona's playing. Iona, new program. They're playing Hofstra. We need to get Ryan's geography to help us determine what exactly we're calling Iona Hofstra.
What kind of derby is it?
Yeah. So it's not as, maybe not as, I don't know if Virginia is. Virginia, it usually played, last couple of years, Virginia played Michigan in that spot. That was another top 20, kind of matchup. This year, looks like Virginia's starting a week later, February 8th. So maybe a little bit more low-key, but still nonetheless, there's games to preview again. Like, Loyola Georgetown's reasonably big. Hopkins, Denver's, top 10 game. So right off the bat, you got a top 10 game. Maryland, Richmond is, top 20, thereabouts game. So we will be, we previewing that one, and then we'll be there live Saturday, ideally, to break it all down after that first, first day of games on the first. So that's our, roadmap for what we're doing this next month of, to get prepared for the season. Basically, a month, 30 days. Then we're.
I was just gonna say 4.5 weeks is the first game, February 1st. This is crazy, but I love it. Yeah, these games to talk about, stuff to watch post Super Bowl. Jake, I don't want to get too far ahead of us, but what you think of Richmond, Maryland? Like, are you feeling like good start to the season for the Terps? A challenging game, or like what are you looking for? Like, first game of the season. Yeah. Besides a win, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's become. What to expect at this point. That it's become. They've played at what? It's like an annual game now. First, I think they've 4 years in a row, I want to say, since COVID. And then they played pre-COVID. It was first week or two, I want to say a year. I want to say the COVID, even the first pre-COVID or the COVID year, 2020, I want to say that was Anthony DeMeo scored a game-winning goal. Maryland had to come back, won that game in overtime. And so it's been a, kind of fixture on the schedule. It's it's been an interesting game. There's been, Maryland has won it by a lot. Like 2023, Maryland won that game by they blew Richmond out, and it was like, oh, all right, I kind of took that as like a great sign for the season, and it turned out there was rough seas ahead. Last year, I want to say this past season, it was pretty brutal. It looked, or at least it was just a February game. Yeah, I mean, a win, what you're looking for. You know what you get with Richmond. It's going to be a tough game. They're going to be really strong defensively. I guess just so it's a decent barometer to see where the team's at. You can't really take too much out at the end of it because it's February. It's February 1st at that. I'll be intrigued to see. I think this is probably the most kind of probably questions, you could probably say that there is about what Maryland's lineup looks like going into a season. There's been in a long time. I mean, there was a good, 4 or 5 year stretch. There was like, you could pencil in Wisnauskas, DeMeo, Maltz, those guys into the on offense. You just knew, it was just easy. And even the last couple of years, you kind of have an idea of, Spanos will be in there. Obviously Urksa's, kind of come in. He's, fill out a spot for himself. Murphy, after what he did with the 2022 season, you had some guys, the guys who were backups or, on that second line, the 22 with Jack Brennan, you knew they were going to be featuring. Now it's really kind of open end, it's open. Spanos and Urksa will be there. I think Spanos at attack is a definite. Urksa will be in one of the 6. Where is a question. He played midfield during the tournament, and it felt like that was a better fit for him. Coming out of the box, potentially getting a short, matching up on a short stick, kind of thinking less and just doing, going to the goal, ball in his stick a little less, and just kind of being able to attack. They brought in a lot of transfers, from the portal, like in terms of transfer production. I think I mentioned this on the pod last time, the last pod we did, in terms of transfer production. They were, if you look at Lacrosse Reference Pros, transfer production ranks, in terms of offensive, expected goals added for transfer production. Maryland is 4th, behind Fairfield, Michigan, and Ohio State. They have brought in a lot of guys from the portal, and interesting names, because it wasn't seen as a particularly deep year from the portal. They brought in Matthew Keegan from Binghamton, who was their leading scorer. They brought in Bryce Ford from Fairfield. He was their leading scorer. They brought in Jack Dowd from Salisbury, a big time, player at D3 level. So how do these guys feature in? These are all players, again, at their team at that level, top-notch players. Are they guys who, as they scale up to the Big Ten, can they be, can they have a similar impact? I think Ford will probably play attack with Spanos. Dowd was midfielder. That kind of makes sense. Keegan, does he play attack too? Spencer Ford, big time, recruit. coming in from high school. Seems like there's talk he might redshirt. Wouldn't shock me. But I think still that might be surprises some people. You get a big time 5-star incoming recruit. Anytime you have one of those guys, there's often an expectation that they'll be making an impact immediately. So I'm just kind of I would say the last time there was this much sort of questions about where all the the lineup and then you have the defensive end too. You're losing Zappatello. I think there's just less questions there because they have guys coming back on that side of the ball. You have Colin Burlace coming back, who was their number 2 defenseman. I think he projects to bump up and be a number 1 defender. You have Will Schaller, who has when Ajax has been out, has kind of bumped in for him. I think he's a guy who can take he's not Ajax, but I think he filled in for Zaps when Zaps got hurt in the 23 season, and it was obvious that he was a freshman. There were some growing pains when he played more this past year in the 2024 season. It was obvious how much he had I think matured. So I think he's ready to I think he's ready to take a leap into the starting lineup. They have more options on the defensive end. Again, is there a Zappatello on there who was just one of the kind sort of defensive option on that side? No, but that feels a little more kind of set in stone. As to what they have Jackson Canfield back. So they have on the defensive side, they have multiple guys who have all started significant minutes. Offensively, I would say there hasn't been this much question as to how the pieces are going to fit since probably the year after they won the title in 2017. And look, the guys who they played that year wound up being, all featured, significantly on great teams in the future. So that's kind of what I'm intrigued to see is, what's it, kind of look like, how they made a push in the portal that indicates to me Tillman thinks he's going to go for it. He's got a team he thinks that can really, go far. And I mean, coaches, I guess to a degree always probably think that, but, they hadn't really been active in the portal a lot the last couple of years, and they were this year. And that, I think that, to the degree you can infer something, I think that says something. So that's what I'm mainly kind of, looking for. I think, how they play, you can't really tell too much, because as we know, it's February and you can go, as we've seen a million times before, there are teams who look awful February 1st that wind up having great seasons. And there are teams that look great February 1st that wind up sitting at home or that are sitting at home, the second weekend of May. So, but kind of that's what I'm kind of most intrigued. I mean, if they get a win, that's great. And then I'm just kind of intrigued to see where kind of the pieces are, fitting the lineup, kind of decisions where they're going. Face off, who's getting the draws, with Luke gone. I'll let you go. I'm taking up a lot here, but it's been a common topic, point of topic point that how much they rode Luke Weirman the last couple of years, that they really didn't have a second faceoff guy behind Luke Weirman. That was often point of maybe contention, I guess you could say. And fair or unfair, I don't think it ever really wound up being. I don't think it ever really wound up mattering. I mean, Luke Wehrman's performance at the 2024 tournament was incredible. And he never once looked tired. They have some talented face-off guys on this roster, but I think it's probably fair to say they will need multiple face-off guys in 2025. Neither of them are Luke Wehrman. So, whoever gets the draws, whoever they look for, whoever they're going with, in first against Richmond, I do think it's, I don't, I just don't, even North Carolina, they went with, Brady Wambach, who was the number one faceoff guy in the country. They still, had him split time with Andrew Tyrer. It's, unless you're Trevor or TD, for a freshman Fogo, you got to be a pretty special Fogo to not, for the move not to be, probably spelling them, giving them, finding another option.
Happy you said Trevor and TD, because that's where I put Luke, in that company. And I was thinking, I was like, I don't think there'll be as much of a face-off hangover for Maryland with Luke gone. He's a special, all-time great in Terp history. But it feels always like Luke grew into that role. Like we kind of just saw him progress from 2021 on. And it always felt like Maryland will have, the tools and the resources to, make a great team. But the reason I was saying is look at Denver and who's now just kind of come back to the forefront. TD was with several teams, but his run with Yale was a big one. What he did it with Albany. Albany just came back to the tournament last season. Yale's kind of struggled post TD. I know that wasn't that long, and Shea had a great run in there. But I don't think Maryland's going to have that same type of hangover. Just because I just think just a better team. But that is one of the key things I think with Maryland is he kind of made them elite to a degree that kind of separated them into that
yes,
echelon that we kind of said, that triumvirate, them, Notre Dame and Virginia these last 4 years. I mean, for Hopkins, I am a little concerned. Just offensively, I feel, Jacob Angeles just did such a great job distributing. I am kind of concerned, we don't have as many points coming back as I like. We were just talking about this Lex reference tool. Hopkins is kind of near the bottom quartile for the points returning. Mm-hmm. Really kind of looking at Melendez, Dylan Bauer, and Matt Collison to really take the lead. But I'm really kind of I keep always saying this about Milliman, where's my Jeff T? I just kind of feel it's kind of been there 4 years now. Definitely he's got a hold on program, and now with his, maybe we're getting the full Milliman, as we said in the off season, with him taking more the reins on the offense this year. But just am a little bit concerned. I think we've kind of lost a lot of important positions, multiple places. I mean, defense pretty pretty happy. No, we're not happy is not the right word, but I think we should be kind of strong, but losing Chase is big. I thought he was one of our main points to help kind of steady that defense, and this is one of our strong suits last season. So I'm just concerned that I just feel there are kind of multiple holes, but that means there's multiple opportunities for people to step up. I trust Milliman's talent evaluation and stuff like that. We'll be able to have the people in the right position. But just kind of looking at when I'm thinking of that first game, that's why I'm kind of concerned. I was looking, it was Denver team also lost a good amount, pretty much returning right around the same percentages, but within reason. But you kind of feel with away game, 1 o'clock at Denver, I'm just a little concerned because I kind of feel that's kind of a game that Denver can kind of jump out 2 or 3 goal lead and just kind of choked the game out of that and end up winning like a kind of, not a shootout or anything like that, but like a 11-7 type thing, and Hopkins offense sputtering. So yeah, I'm kind of looking at first week. I'm not just looking for. It would be actually kind of think Hopkins would be lucky to come out there with a win. I think they're favored on DraftKings, but I mean, like I said, I am a little bit concerned. So like, kind of just want to see what we're going to be able to do on the offensive end and whether or not the defense can be as stout as it was last year. But yeah, a little concerning. I'm kind of excited for the season to start, just to kind of watch that game. Yeah, I actually got a few questions and hoping we get to see some of them. Positive play February 1st.
I mean, no, I mean that's a tough. I mean, going to Denver on February 1st that's tough. I mean, Hopkins has got a they've got one of those if you wind up like 8-5, you might take it schedules.
Yeah,
they got a lot of road games. It's tough. The thing I'll say is, we're sitting here. I mean, you said what you said about Hopkins. Their return on offense. I could say a lot about Maryland on the face-off and on the offense as well. They lost certainly production on the offensive end. Denver, you mentioned Denver with like losing Trevor. They didn't. Denver replaced Trevor, but as well as you possibly could. I mean, Trevor graduated what, 2018?
Yeah, one freshman, 15, 16.
Yeah, 15. So yeah, 18, and then they
got TD.
They had TD for. I mean, yeah, that kind of like
1 year.
friggin' like 2 months in 21, but that means basically they had, I think, Brett Boos for like in 2019. He was pretty good. And then they had Stathakis. So like Brett Boos is like the worst faceoff guy Denver has had for 10 years. He was a pretty good faceoff guy. He won over 50%. I mean, I think he wasn't, but like if you've had Trevor and Stathakis for like a decade and you had TD in there for a month, I mean, dude, that's all American. They've had all American faceoff play for a decade. It's basically what Denver's had. Yale.
It's a superpower. You get to like. It's not a guarantee you're going to win and stuff like that, but if you're getting 80% faceoffs, like you're going to take it.
I mean, Yale, losing TD, losing TD has not been the losing TD has exposed the issues Yale has had, but it's not like that's been, if we just go by like the Lacrosse face-off ELO ranking, so just it's like weighted, these like weighting for like quality of competition and then their percentage, like each face-off guy in the country. Nicholas Ramsey was 16th. He won 63% last year. Machado Rodriguez won 61%. He had some injuries. Yale's had very good face-off guys since TD, left. Again, they're not TD, but if you go from TD to still guys winning over 60%, that's pretty good. I mean, I would say.
I was like, it's still almost like 25% decrease. You know what I mean? Like,
oh no, yeah. Look, the decline is going to be like,
it's going to be bad, yeah.
Stratus, I mean, immense. I would say the only significant. I mean, Virginia last year, I think, was pretty going from PD was pretty big. Just because I don't think they ever found a guy who could, like, they had Gobriel took, about 300 for them, but then Colucci took 160. And they bring Gobriel back to like 55%. I think Virginia replacing Petey was pretty. I don't think they replaced him as well. Also, just because Petey's impact offensively was so pronounced for them, and then maybe Syracuse replacing Ben Williams. They kind of went through the. I mean, they had Faup, who was okay. Cuse trying to replace Ben Williams. I feel like maybe for a couple years, they had. And Ben Williams is really good. Ben Williams is very good. He wasn't in this kind of, I'm trying to, look, at the end of the day, these teams are the best teams for a reason. They replace great players with great players. So the likelihood is that, look, Maryland's problems at the faceoff dot before Weirman were kind of, it was for a program for a program of their stature, it stood out, like it was, that was part of why I frustrated. It was like, I mean, that was the thing, it was like when they got him or not when they got him. Cause I mean, he wasn't a, super highly touted recruit. I mean, he was considered a good lacrosse player, but he wasn't seen as like a great face-off recruit necessarily. When he broke out to the degree he did, it was like it was the missing link, in that team. Because otherwise face-off was like the weakness, so to speak. They had a run where, I want to say like 5 years where they just hovered around 50%. And now, granted, what you would say is they often started the year really well in face-off in non-conference, and then they like dipped when they got to conference play because the Big Ten had a lot of good face-off guys. But that's the thing is like, when you get in Big Ten, you play in the tournament, you play like against elite face-off guys, they didn't do as well. But like, I mean, that's what that's who you're judged against. You're not judged against, how you do against okay face-off guys. You're judged against how you do against, you're judged against how you do against the best teams. But so, certainly replacing Weirman will be it'll be a big, but it's also what made him certainly so impactful in 2024 was that he allowed them to shrink the game, to a degree. And he allowed them to, control games and protect that offense. If their offense gets better, they could go from 65% on faceoffs to 56%. But if their offense, is back to being a top 10 offense in the country, you take that, like you'll take that, you make, it's like the old, with the Moneyball thing, like make it up in the aggregate. It's like, look, do I want, do I want a top 10 face-off and a top 10 offense? Of course. You want to have what Notre Dame had, last year and what Maryland had in 2022. Like, obviously, you want to have everything. Like, if you can choose the world, I'll take the world. But it's like, if I can take a, little bit of a decline in face-off, but, take an improvement in offense, and be more efficient on the offensive end. We kind of had this conversation when we talked with, Chris Wojcik. He's like, this is how the team's measured, is in like the efficiency. It's like, yeah, like we'll make that up. If we're a more efficient offense, we can take, then we'll make it up in less possessions, Yeah. And also it's like, if we as an offense take care of the ball better and we turn the ball over less and, we clear better, well, then we have more, you can also find more possessions that way too, so it's not a zero-sum game, like Luke Weirman's impact is, it's not solely felt by like, it is impactful, but you can reduce it by just being a better team elsewhere. And who knows if they will be, We have to wait and see. The other point I was going to make is, I got sidetracked with making this point about Denver. Like, Denver losing Stathakis this year. Can they have, can they, continue this face-off success they have? We'll see. But you look at, Denver, if you're in a Denver fan's shoes, like say if you're a Hopkins, you're looking at perspective of, man, we're losing a lot on offense. Denver's looking at for, man, we're losing Stathakis. They might look at perspective of, man, we're losing a lot of experience on defense. They lose on offense too. If you're if you're a Notre Dame fan, life's great. You don't really care, but you're losing pillars of the program in Entenmann and Pat Kavanaugh and, key pieces on the defensive end, other places. If you're a Duke fan, you got a lot to replace. Certainly. If you're, so it's Virginia, obviously, lots to replace. Maybe the best 1-2 combo in the history of the program, and with Schellenberg. So I think that's the story of this season is, if you're a fan of a team out there who's asking questions about, man, how do we replace this? And, or the answer is there's somebody else out there, and there's a coaching staff out there who's probably asking the same question about, a area of their team too. That's the nature of how the sport's been the last couple of years. Everybody is, paying the piper this year because we've been able to elongate, the windows with, the COVID and, grad years and the transfer portal. And look, the transfer portal is still a factor this year too, not to the same degree. So yeah, it's like, everybody, if you look at just like returning production, in points, again, we'll go back to, Lacrosse Reference Pro, get yourself a subscription, great service, the top 10, it's kind of an inversion of what we've seen the last couple of years. The only what we would consider power conference, I guess you consider teams who are in the top 10 are Ivy League teams.
I was going to say 3, 4, right? Brown, Princeton, Cornell, Harvard. Oh, Penn.
Yeah, it's Brown, Princeton, Cornell, Harvard, and Penn. Jeez. Other than that, Siena's first. They return 95.5% of their points. Bucknell is 4th. Marist is 5th. VMI is 7th. And Drexel is 10th. Outside of Ohio State's 14th. Syracuse is 15th, which is obviously a big reason that Syracuse fans are really excited for this year. But on the flip side for Syracuse, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. Look, when we did our way too early, we had Syracuse ranked 2nd. So I could, Syracuse face off, expected goals added, returning. Syracuse is 45th, defensive games returning, Syracuse is 52nd. So just gives you an idea. So if you look at the Final Four teams last year in returning points, Maryland is 48th. Virginia is 46th. Notre Dame is 35th. And Denver is 39th. The other quarterfinal teams, Georgetown's 41st. Then you have Syracuse. We mentioned Syracuse is 15th. Hopkins, you mentioned, 51st. Duke is 60th. So, if I mentioned, again, if I go like 11 through 20, Colgate, Monmouth, Albany, Ohio State 14, Syracuse 15, St. John's 16, Villanova 17, Wagner 18, St. Bonaventure 19, Vermont 20, Providence 21, UMass Lowell 22, North Carolina 23. Again, another team that, thinking they'll be could be in line for a good year. Canisius, Queens, Jacksonville, Army, Cleveland State. So it's a lot of these, a lot of the big names are not returning, So now, if you're listening to this and you're a fan of, a smaller school, hey, this might be a chance for you to have a solid year. Or it might be an indication that, hey, your conference is going to be really competitive because, you've got, a lot of the teams in that conference are returning, a lot of, players, which is a good segue into our, what we just spent 40 minutes not getting to. But
he's into it.
America East, ASUN, the MAAC, return of the MAAC, and the actual return of the NEC. So in case you're, unfamiliar, unaware, the alignment, configurations of these conferences. The America East is unchanged from 2024 going into 2025. Still 7 teams. Remember, you need 6 to have a automatic qualifier for the NCAA tournament. Every conference has one of those except for the Atlantic Coast. The America East has Binghamton, Bryant, the New Jersey Institute of Technology, UAlbany, UMass Lowell, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and Vermont. We have the ASUN. All of a sudden, a nice compact 6 teams. No longer the sun now does set on the ASUN. Air Force, the Academy, Bellarmine, Jacksonville, Mercer, Queens, and Utah. So those, long, cross time zone flights, probably just need to do like, one of those a year now. No more, fly to, go midweek to Cleveland State, then go to weekend to Air Force, just, monstrosities. The ASUN, congratulations, tip of the cap. Got it down to a nice, tight, compact 6 teams.
That's the power number.
It's basically a Southern Conference with Air Force and Utah. Sure, but we'll work with it.
Real America. Just
it's like
not you coastal elites.
It's like in Justified. How what is it? The Detroit mob has like a presence in Kentucky.
Yeah. A little faction,
All right, the MAAC. The MAAC has decided to expand to just
they're going the other way.
Yeah, they're truly preposterous levels. 9 teams. Canisius, Iona. Welcome to Division I men's lacrosse. Iona. I hope we get Rick Pitino at games. Oh wait, no, he's at St. John's now. So well,
still love him to come to some.
Yeah, I hope he goes to St. John's games. Manhattan, Marist, Merrimack, Mount St. Mary's, Quinnipiac, Sacred Heart, and Siena. So 9 teams make up the MAAC in 2020, which actually is, I mean, is a shrink, isn't it? Weren't they 10 last? I think, yeah. So we have the MAAC has the MAAC has shrunk. Actually, yeah. Congratulations. You know, we have you know, I mean, we're still you know, like it to go, you know, still like smaller, but you know, we have shrunk. That is because the NEC has returned. Somehow the NEC has returned. Automatic qualification for the NCAA tournament with 8 teams. The NEC has Cleveland State, who has left the ASUN to join the NEC. Detroit Mercy, once of the ASUN, now in the NEC. Lemoyne, who last year was a Division I independent, is now has a home, a conference home. They're in the NEC. LIU goes from the MAAC to the NEC. Mercyhurst jumps up from Division II, I want to say, to the NEC. Bobby Moe goes from the ASUN to the NEC. VMI goes from the MAAC to the NEC, and Wagner goes from the MAAC to the NEC, and this gives us a 7 team, 18, pardon me, 18 new / old conference once again. So these are our don't know how we're calling them, you know, one bid league, you know, automatic qualifier conferences that we are going to preview this evening. Safe. What are storylines? Yeah, what sort of storylines for either as a whole or, you know, any of these leagues specifically? What do you got?
I'm going to go with the ASUN, Jake, because my main storyline for them is, will we continue to see just Utah's, you know, dominance over this conference? Like, if I just trying to pull it up, they only what was McMinn had an extraordinary regular season record. Sorry, trying to pull it up just from last year and the year prior. Yeah, only lost one conference game last year. Won the conference tournament. Obviously, got the AQ and 2023. Believe it's the same deal.
Undefeated 2023.
2023 undefeated, and was 2022 the year they went undefeated but lost in the conference tournament?
2022, they were, yes. So they've lost one. They've lost one regular season game the last 3 seasons.
Yep, Bobby Moe, former McMinn's team, I believe, but yeah, stole that from them. But yeah, I guess unparalleled, obviously, for Utah. They're still such a young program, but like, you know, just a great run of success there. And I think for them, it's just like kind of the same thing that, you know, we say with Richmond, St. Joe's to an extent. Like, kind of my storyline is like, you know, don't have to play in the play-in game. So that's one goal, which I think they can have a reasonable chance of like meeting. but it's that upset, that first round upset, and it's just like I don't know if like them, Richmond or St. Joe's are going to be the first ones to break through. But I really, I put the Utes right up there with the Spiders and the Hawks in terms of like a, I don't want to say national program, but they definitely are a growing power in the West Coast. I think like eventually, we may see, another Western Conference, and maybe Utah's not going to be in the ASUN for forever. But I think that they found a nice home. We really love the kind of trimming the conference and getting to 6. That is a power number that gives you the bare minimum you need for the AQ, with giving you the flexibility to schedule as many high quality out of conference games as possible. So Utah and Jacksonville to an extent, that's my other storyline for the ASUN. Just like I feel Galloway's just like coach said what he's done with that program, it was great, but like the Dolphins haven't had that one shining moment type of thing, like the Spiders, the Utes, or St. Joe's have had recently, and they've been right there, and kind of playing bridesmaid a few times in conference tournament before even when they're in ASUN. But like it's kind of will they be able to like kind of knock Utah off their perch and like get a conference appearance, an NCAA conference appearance, and like I said, there's a lot of fans of Galloway, and rightfully so, done a great job with that program. But that's the main thing for me. Is just like my two main storylines is Utah are going to continue their run that they've had, just remarkable. The ASUN, and are we going to see the Dolphins, potentially knock them off? Just because I can kind of see them in the best position of Air Force. It's going to be a strong team, but you look at Bellarmine, Queens, and Mercer. Not really. I don't think are going to put too much of a challenge to Utah's perch, but Jacksonville could, and if they are able to kind of take care of business with Utah, win the AQ, Dolphins get into the tournament. I think that that would be a big jump for them. But those are my two main storylines.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. They're in an interesting spot, because they, on the defensive side of the ball, they return, a lot of experience. They return a lot of the face-off X, a lot of the offensive punch from this team exits. Jordan Hyde, Tyler Bradbury, guys that MJ McMahon, guys that kind of like had been kind of foundational pieces to the program out the door, and so kind of a question of do bring Ryan Steins back, so I think a good question of how do when you lose that some of those key guys on that kind of built the foundation. How do you keep it going? But yeah, it's when you look at when you look at the league, it does kind of feel hard to see someone making a big push towards them. Jacksonville is the one, and they've got maybe the best, sort of mix. They return a lot of experience on defense. They've got talent on the offensive side of the ball that's coming back. Jacob Grenier does go out the door. He's the main playmaker, but Nicky Brown back, Jack Taylor back, Jackson and Trieri, I think, has been there since like the Obama administration. or the first Trump administration. Like, I feel like, Ethan Mond's been there for a minute too. So, they've got a lot, a lot to work with. And Jacksonville's been punching at the door, obviously, for a long period of time. Could have, a dip from Utah and escalation from Jacksonville. Can that kind of be, just the right kind of mix? If Utah takes a bit of a step back, Jacksonville takes a bit of a step up. Is that kind of exactly maybe what you're looking for? The games between those two teams were close a year ago. Utah got them by 2 in Jacksonville, and they won by 3 in the conference championship game. They hilariously didn't play in or did they play in 2023? They did play in 2023. They only played once. They lost by 3. Jacksonville lost in the conference tournament to them. So I think Utah's going to be the top, of this league, just with the nature of, with the league shrinking to the degree it has, and with what they've, the advantages they've got set up, and with as long as McMinn is there, I think they'll be there. I think this could be. I think this is a year for Jacksonville to kind of pinpoint to themselves. They've got the production coming back. Utah is losing some key pieces. I think this is kind of a if you're Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's a program that there have been different points for them where I think they were one, I think particularly that had kind of been hurt by the, they could say that, really the way that the, look, you don't make excuses, but the way the conference was set up before didn't help, them. In 2023, they had to play Utah 2 days after they played Cleveland State, both on the road. That doesn't help you, one bit. The start of Jacksonville's season this past year was a road trip to Binghamton, then a road trip to Marist, and then they played on the road at Duke. They've had, none of this really, really didn't help them. Kind of the way this was for now. It's, it's more amenable to you. I mean, look, it's still going to Utah's not great, but Utah going to you isn't great either. And otherwise, you don't got to go to Cleveland State. You don't got none of that. Going to Bellarmine, going to Mercer, going to Queens. It is what it's manageable. I just think overall, what is your program? Galloway's been there for a minute now.
2017.
Yeah. It's been a minute since, he was kind of in the mix for potential with people talking about him going to other jobs. And he chose to kind of, lay down roots there. And that program has had some notable wins and some moments to try and, get people locally invested in the program. But at the end of the day, you're not gonna you can't take the next step unless you get to the tournament. And you can't really start building foundations unless proof of concept doesn't come without the NCAA tournament. February wins over Duke are good. I mean, it's a they're good for getting attention on Twitter, and having us talk about it on the podcast. But the thing that really gets buy-in is the fact that it's hosting conference tournaments on your campus in May, and listen, like it's a tough gig. I mean, like, it's, I think a lot, go look at Jacksonville Stadium. Like, I know people have talked like, oh, the location and recruiting, everything. It's like, man, go look at the stadium. Like, I mean, like, it's not, they're not working with, world-class facilities, like, I mean, but nonetheless, and like, look, Jacksonville compared to Utah, like, we're talking Jacksonville compared to a Big 12 school.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, there's a big difference here. Like, I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to do this in terms of, like Galloway's like, failing here. It's like, oh, look, there's a difference, like, no question about it. But, if I'm sure what their goal is, there, and they've proven they can get to within a step. So I think when you've proven you can get close, and you have, a roster that's proven they can get close, and you've got the bulk of that roster with that experience back, I think the next step for you is to get, to the NCAA tournament. And you've got Utah that's, again, if Utah was here and you were here, and Utah maybe takes a small step back, I think you've got to, try and take that next step above them. But I think, yeah, this league to me is, I mean, look, Air Force is always kind of, sniffing around. I think, Andy Whitley's done a terrific job at Bellarmine the last couple of years, but that does appear to be kind of a hard ceiling at that job with that program. Like, it feels like it, at least in comparison to Jacksonville, Utah, they're kind of, have kind of hit their, at least, the semifinals is kind of, the ceiling. But we'll see maybe this year with 6 teams what, how things maybe shake out, that league being what it was, I think as it gets smaller, and becomes more of a normal conference, I think we'll get a better idea for how these teams all kind of, shake out next year. But I do think, look, Utah being what it is I do, look, yes, Utah is as I said, it is a Big 12 school. That doesn't necessarily mean that Utah is, if you put Utah in the Big 10, it would still be, lacrosse wise, it would still be 7th out of 7 in that, league. Like, it's not, so like, this is all relative, but I do think with the coach, they have obviously McMinn, and there are advantages there, though, that, it stands to reason to me that, they have in this league, but obviously what they've done, as you mentioned, the last couple of years and long term, I think they're, in good shape. Will that continue? This year, Jacksonville's the only one I feel like maybe who could get them.
Definitely.
We want to go next.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had a storyline. I want to step on you.
I think we had a question. I think just kind of neatly ties it all up. Came from Joshua at Josh Zielka Holmes on Twitter. How do the teams leaving / added to the MAAC, NEC, ASUN, and AE affect their competitiveness? Really good question. I don't know if you want to take a stab at it.
Well, I think the teams leaving the ASUN, like what we said, just makes it a little bit less of a unwieldy conference in terms of like being able to schedule out of conference games. Like I said, like the goal is to get to 6, 7 if you have to. But if once you have like these really, kind of large conferences, like we've always been a big proponent of like, the 5-5 split, and then allows your conference to maybe schedule one a certain amount of games in the other division, but it still gives you that flexibility to schedule out of conference games. Getting the out of conference games is in its own difficult in its own right, but like not even having the space in the calendar to get it is kind of a major problem. So I feel for them that they're definitely going to be a benefit for the NEC. Definitely a benefit just because it went from the casket buried and back out there and starting right out the gate with an automatic qualifier into 2025. Just in terms of like kind of excitement, like for the conference. NEC used to be a really fun conference. I remember watching front row games when we were first really starting. When St. Joe's and Bryant were in there. It was just a really exciting conference. Being able to have the core members of Lemoyne, LIU, Merrimack, Sacred Heart, and Wagner, be able to just have their own conference, like natural conference, and being able to play lacrosse in it now. Like I think it's going to be, again, just a boon for those smaller conferences. Now, like I said, we've kind of mentioned that with the A10. They got a lot of natural like conference mates able to play in the lacrosse conference, and it's just good for rivalries. It gives like more of a I hate using this word, Jake. Vertical integration almost of the athletic program, able to play the teams that you're used to playing, and your fans and alums are used to disliking and cheering against. So for them, I think it's going to be definitely a major benefit just going from not having a conference and coming back to seeing. But this would be my major takes.
Yeah, I think it creates the NEC is, I mean, the MAAC we always kind of talked about, it's just with the Spider-Man, point like, like an escalator, like you could go up or down. And I don't know if you talk about this with Keegs on the podcast of like, the nature of being in that league, of like, you could go just with how competitive all those teams are. You could be up one year and you could be down the next, because the teams are so similar. And they are all, especially in the NEC is a little different. But the MWC, the MAAC specifically, because a lot of them are like New York schools, similar area, private school, like similar type schools too, like recruit similar type players. That like EDF school, like we remember like when we first did the pod, like one of the first like Quinnipiac. That's when Quinnipiac team, we got to beat out every few years. Quinnipiac 2016 makes the tournament. Say I think you ranked them 2017, and then they like won like 4 games. Like that's the type of league it is.
It really is. Yeah.
Like and I think you're going to see
they returned so much that year.
Exactly. It's like, what changed? Nothing really. Like it's the nature of exactly. It's the nature of the beast. And it was like, Marist, was, I think, we had this, I think we had a discussion in the chat, our group chat, with like, and Marist, had a, good last couple years, I was like, yeah, like what kind of happened with like, Marist? And it was like, honestly, nothing probably happened. Like they just had like, they put it together really well for a couple years. And then like, COVID, like they were one who like really smashed by COVID, with like that. And it's like, they just like, a couple, years it just didn't break right for them. And here you go. Like and I think the MAAC is going to continue to be that way. When you look at the teams, Canisius, Iona, Manhattan, Marist, Merrimack, those are all, those teams are Sacred Heart, Sacred Heart's a great, I think Bossy's a really good coach. Like, remember a couple, the Sacred Heart, the Sacred Heart team with Max Tuttle and Joe Sagasi didn't make the tournament. Like, those two guys were like All-Americans. And the Sacred Heart team this year did make the tournament.
Were they like in the top 12? Both of them in like points
per game?
Yeah. Yes. It was like two of the biggest hitters. Yeah.
And I think the NEC is not quite the same league in terms of, you've got different, Cleveland State and Detroit Mercy and Bobby Moe are, different teams to Lemoyne and LIU. But overall, you've got all of these teams, Cleveland State, Detroit Mercy, Lemoyne, LIU, Mercyhurst, VMI, Wagner, they're all in the, similar, level. Bobby Moe, LIU are the two who might be able to climb at a different, might be able to scale up a little bit. That's what I would say I could see, being able to maybe separate themselves a little bit. Bobby Moe potentially, if you told me like Bobby Moe, could Bobby Moe like rip off, a run here and like wins this league perpetually? Maybe. They've got a track record of that. But overall, this is a league like of teams that are just like, it's very similar programs that are all, at a similar clip where, it's gonna come down to, can you get can you recruit a 4-year crop of players? These are not schools that are going to be in the transfer portal, bringing guys in. These are also not schools that are probably going to be losing a lot of guys to the transfer portal. To this, to the same degree, as, maybe like an America East would, or a, 8-10 maybe would, or CAA.
Patriot League.
Yeah, Patriot League, of course. Yeah, so these are going to be schools who, keep their players really. It's going to be like, can you just, recruit and, get a group of guys, to put it together over a, period of time. It's, can you keep a staff together, so yeah, that's what I would say, in terms of really, the competitiveness side is I think you've got two leagues here, the MAAC, NEC, that are, you just got a lot of teams at a similar level, and I think it's going to be hard for any one team to really, keep things at a, to really separate themselves. Bobby Moe maybe to the NEC. Otherwise, I don't think so. We talked with the ASUN. Utah, I could see kind of keeping it, rolling. I think the America East is I think is similar too. I think the America East, the teams are, the talent level in the league is better. I mean, the America East, you have talent that like schools in the, as we see, like America East guys, get picked off into bigger leagues in the transfer portal. They recruit, again, higher players. Those schools tend to pay more in terms of coaching salaries. So you tend to get, I don't want to say better coaching, because it's like, I think there are, look, Bobby Moe had McMinn, there are very good coaches that go through the MAAC and the NEC. Keegs is a good example. What is that? It's that in terms of the America East is because they pay more in coaching salaries, it's that they keep them. it's that they retain it. And since you retain the coaches for longer, the players work with those coaches for longer. And like UMBC is a good example. Like UMBC has really had, some really good assistant coaches there for, a good period of time. And so I think the America East, though, like, I'm not sure I see anyone really separating themselves in the near future. I think the league will be very competitive, like it's been the last couple of years. What I will say is that I think there's a better chance in the next couple of years of the America East champion being competitive in the tournament in their game. And I think, the last couple of years we've seen this, we're grouping the America East champion in this with these other leagues. I think there's a shot that the America East champion could, be a really, kind of move more into that CAA A10 kind of pool of teams. The talent level in that league, I think, is better than in the ASUN and the MAAC and the NEC. What's happened is that a lot of it is getting picked off to the portal. The question is, if the portal subsides due to like the grad years and COVID, can they keep more of that talent in the league? And, if we get to more of a normal kind of 4-year cycle and we kind of have less of this kind of super team era where, these, the Big Ten ACC teams are more of what we had, let's say, 2017, 2018, 2019. I think you could have, look at the teams in this league. Bryant made a quarterfinal in the 2010s. UMBC has, pulled off, upsets back in the 2000s. I'm not going to say I ever think Albany is going to be what Albany was. Albany had multiple generational talents. Like that's kind of what it took for Albany to scale up to what it was. But I still think Albany can obviously be an NCAA tournament team. They were this year, and they played Notre Dame really well for a half. Vermont, with Fives had some really good teams. Their reward was getting Maryland at home. Maryland's in the tournament. Maybe Tillman's two best Maryland teams. So I think that's something I could see is, if things kind of normalize a bit, I think maybe the America East could, I think they're a league that's been hit really hard. Again, they've lost a lot of talent to the portal. Like I mentioned, Maryland, they picked off several players. Maryland's picked off a bunch of America East players in the portal the last couple of years. So
coaches,
coach, yes. The league is competitive. That's for sure. I don't think we're going to get it to team dominated the way Albany did. But heck, Stony Brook left the league. We had the Stony Brook team with was a Seoul Stony Brook team in 2010. So that's something to watch out for. So I think, in different ways, I think the realignment has kind of shaped the competitiveness of, the league. I think it's made some leagues. I think overall, I think it's made them all maybe more competitive. But I think I think it's allowed. It's allowed different leagues, different opportunities. I would say this America East, I think maybe has a chance, may move up. I think the MAAC and NEC. I don't want to be glib about it. Like those are those are big leagues of those are large collections of teams that are more towards the bottom of the country. Those are they're unwieldy, I think is a good way of putting it.
No, I definitely ASUN the stronger. I actually really love your America East point because it like strengthen like the core of it. Not like they're not getting a Richmond or kind of like a Glamour mid-major or something like that. But like, yeah, when you look at it, like they've all had not all, but like Albany, Vermont, and Bryant really don't have to prove themselves or anything. They've done well. They have postseason success to a certain extent, and programs people would know. Merrimack, yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like if I'm looking at that, this is a team that kind of gets a little bit of punch to them. Like this is a solid team. 8, it is what it is. Like I would love to see conferences be more creative with like how they set it up. Like if you are America East, like you actually have some schools in like somewhat like pretty decent hotbeds. I would like maybe think of like just doing 2 divisions and allowing you to play 2 teams in the other division and gives you that freedom to schedule where you can because you just have more open dates. But yeah, I definitely think those 2 have made themselves stronger. Like I said, the MAAC is what it is. The teams are in there, but NEC just good to have a conference back. After losing the SoCon and stuff like that, and continue having conferences. The more that we have, the larger the tournament is. So for the growth of the game, it's good to see the NEC back in action.
Yeah, it's certainly look. You have, the conference, their conferences are unwieldy, it creates, there are, pros and cons, is, how I would, kind of, put it. You want some of these teams playing better teams, I would say. But yeah, like I think you mentioned, the closer we can get to these teams getting automatically qualified to the tournament. They're automatically qualified, but the MAAC and the NEC, like the MAAC and the NEC are going to be, all 4 of these leagues are going to be in the playing games. Like these are going to be, that's how we should be describing it. These are your playing game conferences, honestly, is probably the way of putting it. These 4, conferences, the winners of these 4 conferences are going to be in the playing games. But long term, what we want is, for there to not be playing games, to some degree or another, because look, the tournament, the reward for winning your conference should be to be in the tournament, and everybody should get to, like when Manhattan won the freaking MAAC, they should have got to be in the tournament. It sucks to like play in the playing game on Wednesday and not be in the tournament. it's what we have now. And do I think that we should throw the baby out with the bathwater necessarily and expand to like 24 teams right now and like just kind of no, because I don't think that we have the means of like letting 8 more like at larges in. But when if we can get one more or 2 more actual, if we get an ACC and just one other conference in, and we kind of like split this up, like you said, yeah, then we're cooking. I think that's really to me that to me is when we talk about like expansion and stuff, that's really what I like to see. Is I want all these. I hate seeing a team lose a playing game and not actually get to participate in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let them lose to Notre Dame. Like, there is a nobility in getting to die. Like, and like let the parents get to travel to South Bend and Notre Dame and like lose. Like, that's they should get to put a banner up for making the NCAA tournament. Like, and yes, they still can't. But like, it's different. Like that's the one thing the NCAA, the basketball tournament gets right. The people who play in the playing game are those, like the at-larges, the 16 seeds the 16 seeds don't play in the playing game. Like they go in, they get to play and they go in and they play the number 1 seed. And for the record, if there was an expansion, that is the immediate thing I would do. Is like I would put every automatic qualifier in, and I would say like, okay, the playing game becomes North Carolina and Rutgers.
I was going to say just some massive playing game between the conference. Yeah, I hear you. It makes sense because
that's like to me, because like that's the like you didn't earn it, like. So that's a different conversation, but like that's hopefully I think what we're what we get towards, and and I think this Mark, our friend Mark Hart, he kind of talks about this is like when eventually if they do expand, how do you I think his proposal, I believe, is like go to 24, I think, and like give the top 8 a bye. I want to say maybe I think because his point is don't punish the seeds. Like it should be a reward for being in the top 8. But yeah, look, the sport is at a very interesting inflection point right now, especially with the way everything else is moving with football. But yeah, I mean, like, I think everything shook out okay. It's good that everybody found a home. It's the first time in a while, in a long, long time, there's no independence. It's good that everyone's in a conference that can play for and hopefully we can get to where, as you said, we can kind of split some of these conferences up and make things a little more utility.
Favorites, is that just overall or just one from each conference or
well, I think we talked ASUN, we got Utah.
Yeah,
I agree with that. America East.
Return to the top for Vermont Catamounts.
I think I'm gonna go with Albany to. I'm gonna go with Albany to run it back. I mean, I could see Vermont, being in the mix. But obviously, I mean, Albany beat Vermont by a goal in the America East Championship. But I like that Albany squad. They got some really young talent on that roster. They returned nearly 80% of their points. Got some experience on the defensive side as well. It was the first watching them was the first time. It was the first time in a couple of years where I really felt like they played with the right mix of swagger that an Albany team has, but without the right the balance. There was a swagger, but it balanced, with being efficient, taking care of the ball, and doing it within the confines of the offense. I think that's always Mar is always going to look as we he does things his way, and he allows his players a lot of rope in how they play. And that's why when his teams are great, they're great because they're just, you don't play teams like that. But I think that watching them when things didn't, I think there was a bit of kind of carelessness over kind of, posts sort of, kind of Fields and those guys. And sort of them playing in that similar way, but without maybe the talent to do it, the experience. I feel like they've got that talent back, and now that talent's become experienced. Well, Silas Richmond, Ryan Doherty, is a good. Point. They bring back Regan. The good point of noting losing Jake Pisano. Just to do everything type of player. Obviously, defensively, he was their best, long pole. And how do you, replace a pole of that, your best, defender, but like he initiated offense for them. He scooped up ground balls in the middle of the field. Wasn't just your best pull, but he was a weapon. They lose Regan Andrews face off, so I think that's true. Yeah, that's a one of a kind type player that you lose there. That's very tough. So that's a big, a big question mark that they have to address. He was flat out one of the best players in the country. Vermont is probably where I would lean after that. If I were to pick another one, but I think I kind of like. I do still kind of like Albany. If I had to pick, but as we talk about, it's a competitive league. And it's hard to lean too far in one direction. UMBC is always kind of lurking there, and they're always pretty tough because they went 5-7 last year, and they but they bring back some talent face-off. But they're always tricky just because they, last year not as much, but they tend to be the team in that conference that plays really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Bryant uses a lot. Albany and Vermont's where I'm leaning, is what I'll say.
I'm with you on those two. The MAAC, I mean, would be on brand to go for Quinnipiac, but
when's the last time someone won the league 2 years in a row?
oof.
Sacred Heart 2024. 2023 was Marist. 2022 was Manhattan. 2021 was Monmouth. 2019 was Marist. 2018 was Canisius. 2017 was Monmouth. 2016 was Quinnipiac. 2015 was Marist. 2014 was Siena. 2013 was the Detroit Mercy team, one that almost beat Notre Dame in South Bend. 2012 was Canisius. 2011 was Siena. So we're still looking. 2010 was the Mount. 2009 was Siena. 2008 was Canisius. 2007 was I don't know. Did the league exist in 2000? I don't think anyone's ever
Running back.
I don't know that's ever. Yeah, I don't know that anyone's ever run it. You always want to. So that it was always a trendy thing to just kind of go with like a proven, just kind of go with a reliable face. Marist though now like Keegs out the window, coaching change. I think I'm going to say Siena returns a lot of production. Like a crap ton of just a crap ton of production. And they lost to Sacred Heart, and they lost to Sacred Heart in the semifinals. Yeah, that's hard to look past. Marist returns a lot themselves, but yeah, I mean, can you, new coach? That's really tricky.
Providence is the last team to win back-to-back MAAC titles, Jake. I went to their championship central link from the the MAAC actual conference page.
What year?
Started in 2000. Providence won 3 out of 4 from 2004 to 2007. Back in 2005. 2006 and 2007 back to back.
That's unreal.
Yeah. Mount St. Mary's was close. They won 2 out of 3 in 01 and then 03. But yeah, it looks like Providence is the only one that ever run it back.
I mean, defense is another thing you always got to account for with this. Marist is set up. From the production standpoint, it's just how much you attribute the coaching change.
I'll go with Marist. Just try out the Keegs.
Yeah.
And then NEC.
Yeah, I'm just thinking here. Canisius played a lot of close games last year. They lost by 1 to Sacred Heart, lost by 2 to LIU, 4 to VMI. They beat Siena. They lost by 4 to Marist. And Canisius tends to their offense was not good. Their defense wasn't good either. Faceoffs were pretty good though, and their goaltending was solid as well. I mean, they weren't great. I mean, really anything, but it's within their. Canisius is always sometimes good for every now and again kind of popping up. I don't know. I'm gonna go Siena. I mean, Gleason's had a good team there. The last couple, they've had a good team the last couple of years. They were 9-7, 23, 8-8. They lost to Marist in the championship game in 2023. They lost in the semifinals. So they've lost to the champion the last couple of years. They returned they returned basically everybody on offense. And I think that's, Marist, I can see, if continuity holds, Marist certainly looks like a team to, Marist certainly looks like a team that can, challenge and be in a good spot. I could see that. But yeah, I'm gonna rock with with Siena. Their defense plays well in non-conference games. It struggled some, but in conference it played well. Offensively, solid team. They bring back decent amount of defense production. Offensively, they bring back a lot. And again, they've got. I think that's again with a league that's had also a league that's had a lot of coaching turnover lately. Marist changed coaches. Manhattan's changed coaches quite a bit. You can't count. That's a bonus for Sacred Heart as well. With Basti, you gotta count for them. But as we said, going back to back is not easy in this league. So that's very hard to point that. So I'm gonna go Siena. I think they're the favorite.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to stick with Marist. I've kind of seen a little bit of I don't want to call it a thing, but I'm thinking of Will Scudder taking over Lehigh.
Yeah. Mm.
Thinking of Connor Busick taking over Cornell right after Milliman left, where the uh, incoming coach, with the cupboards, not too bare, is able to like put together, a good season. Scudder's situation, he only had one. But I think Scar Kello at Maris is gonna, kind of, as you noticed, is in a great position besides Sienna. They're right up there, top 5 overall in production return, and potentially pretty much high 80s, high to mid 80s in everything with 99% coming back in face off. So I'm gonna go with shout out to Coach Wilkinson, pod favorite of ours. So I think his Red Foxes are gonna take up the mantle, and I'm gonna pick them as my favorite.
NEC. Man, what
You say Bobby Mo, maybe?
collection of teams. New league. It's hard to, starting fresh. Can't, Bobby Mo's certainly they're the team with the pedigree, but they went 5-10 last year. Now, granted, much different league, and their losses were to Bobby Lim lost to Cleveland State by 7 goals last year.
Cleveland State had a resurgent year.
They did. Andy Truman, yeah, Cleveland State. That was a strong, and they bring back some pieces. Yeah, they bring back some pieces. You know who else had a reasonably pretty good year? Was VMI.
Oh yeah, the Cadets, yeah.
VMI was 7-8.
That's a big year for them.
Beat Detroit Mercy 15-10. They beat Wagner 14-10. I think you figured, Mercyhurst and Lemoyne, you probably favor them. They lost to Cleveland State by a goal. VMI returning a lot of production on the offensive side of the ball. At the faceoff dot with Jack Rogers, 54%. Luke Russarucci, 68 points. That could be James Papura. I mean, it was a good season, a nice season that they put together, and they have some momentum that they potentially could build on. And they're, towards the end of the year in the MAAC, they were competitive against Marist. 1 goal lost to Quinnipiac, 1 goal lost to Manhattan. And it's been an upward trajectory for them as well. They were 6-9 in 2023. Just kind of steadily been climbing, considering where they went from 4 to 6 to 7. I think you really got to watch out for them with what they bring back. And this is a league that is within their, as we talked about, it's within their means. There's no one here. There's no one here that's meaningfully going to out talent them. Yeah, I think this. I think it's really something to. I think it's really good. Yeah, really look out for. Troy Mercy, new coach. Lemoyne, first year in the conference. LIU. They're one that LIU is. Yeah, that's Jordan Levine. Yeah, they're. I would. That's probably what I would look at. Because they were one of the top teams in the MAAC a year ago. And, coming in, Cleveland State and VMI put up, had good, seasons, but there is some talent, leaving there, but Mark Regan, Cam Connolly, Aiden Zahovsky on the offense, Owen Stefanko, Ben McIsaac on the offensive side of the ball return. They had a kind of goalie by committee approach. But that's also a program with they're also a program that's used to bouncing around, with kind of how they've gone from different level of the conference. They are probably where I would, that's where I'd probably lean, is LIU. If I'm Cleveland State remind me, those are solid teams. And again, I don't know, LIU, I think, probably more naturally, John roster. Again, they beat VMI by 9. I think, what you have with, again, being able to bounce around. They weren't, none of these teams are, all these teams are pretty similar, a year ago in terms of, efficiency, 52, 56, 58, adjusted offensive efficiency. Defensively, LIU was pretty solid, 38th. Just the defense. That's kind of where they made it bread. LIU, I think, is the favorite.
Jake, I love the troops, and I was thinking of VMI return a lot, right behind Marist and Sienna, who we mentioned, earlier in the show with the essentially high 80s, low 90s, except for defense, pretty much bringing back a lot of the cover. I think I just like the way the Cadets have been progressing under Purpura. Essentially, last season was a record-setting season, but they essentially increased their win total every year under him. For the last 4 years, I believe it's 1 win. Forgive me, and 3 years ago, 1 win in 2021, 4 in 2022. 6 in 2023, and then 7 last year. A couple of their losses last year could be even better record, losing early in the season in overtime to Cleveland State, lost to Sienna by 3 on the road, lost to, I think it was, what was the other one I was just looking at? Is that a close one that I missed? Yeah, Manhattan lost that one 8-9 conference game. So they're kind of, Quinnipiac, they lost 12-13. Kind of lost a little bit of steam towards the end, losing 3 of their last 4. But we're kind of right in it in the MAAC race throughout the season. And honestly, you could kind of make a case that they kind of let it, let it slip from their hands, at least an appearance in the MAAC tournament. So yeah, just new surroundings. Kind of like what Papar is doing. We love the troops, so I'm gonna go with VMI. To take it in the inaugural year of the NEC. That's too much. I'm going to make them a dark horse. I'm going to stick with Robert Morris. I'm going to stick with Robert Morris, who I said initially. I think there's maybe program strength and stuff like that. Just find something. But I really like your LIU pick. I just didn't want to be a copycat. Steal all your great points. But I think your good point about them being a position to do well in this conference. It's a natural conference. The Long Island is obviously a hotbed. If they could just continue to do those incremental growths, as we kind of say, you don't need to do one thing just 60-70% better, but just do everything just a little bit better. You just in the aggregate, you'll just be a much stronger team. So yeah, I like your point about LA being well positioned for the future, but just force to have it, trust in the program. I'm just going to go with Bobby Moe.
All right, Safe, let's lock some picks in. America East champion. You are taking the
Catamounts.
All right, I'm taking the Great Danes of Albany. ASUN champion. You are taking
Big Utes, Utah.
All right, I am taking Jacksonville. MAAC, return of the MAAC. You are taking.
What did I say? Wait, didn't I say Marist? Yeah, I'm going to go Marist. Red Hawks. Yeah.
Marist. I am going with Siena. And then for the NEC, the actual return of the NEC, the Safe is going with Bobby Moe. And I am going with LIU. All right. That takes care of it.
That's good.
All right. 4 conferences in the can.
4 down.
We've got 6 to go. We will get 3 done next week, 3 the week after that. We hope you enjoy, I should say, this edition of the Cross Commission podcast. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast platforms so you can get this when it is released on those outlets, which should be up tomorrow morning at the earliest, early tomorrow afternoon. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, the Cross Commission on YouTube, as we'll continue to be uploading things there. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at college_cross as usual. And Safe, anything else?
Jake, I know we wanted to just say quickly at the end, but we would be remiss if we did not mention the passing of legendary coach Dave earlier this week. Any fan of lacrosse knows Coach Urick's name. Legendary run at Hobart, winning 10 consecutive titles. And then, Jake, just for an encore, he decided to just have a really great run at Georgetown as well. Just an incredible, his incredible run, 40-year career. Saw lovely statements from both the the Hoyas and Hobart, and not to mention, pretty much the entire lacrosse community. So, we just wanted to pass our condolences to the New York family, and difficult to see a legend go, but he obviously had a storied career, and I'm sure he was a even better person. So, shout out to Coach York.
100%. We tweeted out on the College Crosse account the statistics and accomplishments that he has. I mean, can fill up multiple pages. It's not, it doesn't do, it doesn't do justice to the impact he had on the game. But I mean, you can go, you've got, a 10 national titles at D3 at Hobart, which is just preposterous. And then what he does he built Georgetown into being a perennial top 10 team and program. And the Hoyas are what they're still chasing today, what his team in 1999 did by getting to the Final Four. So I mean, it's really where you could argue you have a coach, who was and not only that, he was an assistant at Hobart as well. In the 70s, on those national championship teams, numerous national championship winning teams, prior to him becoming head coach. I believe he coached, I think it said the Hobart and William Smith athletics release, I believe, said that he also coached. He was a football coach at Hobart. He was assistant coach. He was one of the architects for Hobart's first 3 national championships in 1972, and 1976, and 77. He was co-head coach in 1979. And then what he did at Georgetown, you could certainly say was a Hall of Fame career in and of itself. It's incredibly rare you could look at a guy and say he had multiple Hall of Fame careers. And that's certainly what he accomplished. And he's someone who really no one ever had a bad word to say about in the game. Even when he when he was let go at or retired at Georgetown, just effusive praise. So 100%, condolences to his family, a legend of the game, 100%.
But Jake, just wish you Happy New Year.
Absolutely.
On the mic with you. That's our boy Ryan. Everyone who's ever tweeted at us, sent to everything else. Comments, messages. Wish you all also a Happy New Year, and looking forward to 2025, man.
Absolutely. I don't know what I'm looking to save. March 1st, 6 p.m. dusk.
I was gonna say they're bringing it back. I remember a night game at home with it. I think it was my senior year. It was it's good to see Lars. Lars always has the recipes. Just nice in his cupboard. He knows where to bring them out. Especially. I might go to that.
I might go to that game.
I was trying to plan it out, like what we should do. I was thinking, Big Ten games.
They don't have that many home games this year.
There only one is the Ohio State's homecoming, and I was actually thinking the Rutgers game may be a good one, just because that's wouldn't be just crazy packed as But yeah, no, that Virginia game just stuck. It's just like, waving at us. It's like, what are you guys doing? 3-1, 25.
Yeah, I might. 6 p.m. I might do that.
That's the only thing I was thinking. I was just like, well, what time would I be getting home?
Oh no, yeah. What is it? Our buddy Mark. He was. I DM'd him. I was like, a single tear shed across my face when I saw this, and he. That's the same. It's the same day as the Maryland. The Maryland Notre Dame game in Atlanta.
Oof.
And I think he was saying that, like, because they scheduled it at 6. I think he said he's like, I can get back home. I can get back home for that one. And he was like, man, they scheduled this just for me.
It's just the Mark Derby.
Yeah, he was like, I was like, man, for you. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I was thinking, like, brother, I could watch Maryland Notre Dame at my house. I could hit up. I could go to this one. Yeah. So that's what I'm. That's what I'm excited about. They better not change this for TV. Yeah. I need this.
The action is the juice.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, folks. I think that's everything.
Signing out for 2024. Exactly.
Signing off. If you listen to anything, tweet it at us, positively or negatively. Listen to a podcast.
Complaints note to at Ryan McD.
Yes, as always, all complaints at Ryan McD 29. We will be back on the mics in the new year. Same place, same time, same channel. Take care. Stay hydrated. Beck Lynch for president.
See you out there.